I was 28 years old, and I slept on the concrete floor of a soundstage in Long Island City because I had exactly $11 in my pocket and no place left to go. The studio was stage 19 at the old Silvercup studios, the one they used for the low-budget horror movies that went straight to video. The lights were off, the big red on-air sign was dead, and the only sound was the hum of a refrigerator in the prop room and my own teeth chattering. I remember the smell, sawdust, old paint, and the metallic bite of fear. I curled up under a tarp that still had fake blood on it from some slasher shoot, and I cried so hard I had to stuff the sleeve of my jacket in my mouth so the night watchman wouldn't hear me. That was the night I almost disappeared. Let me take you back to how I got there. It was the fall of 1997. I'd been in New York 7 years by then, still chasing the dragon, still telling myself that the next audition would be the one. I'd just come off a play that ran 3 weeks in a church basement in Chelsea. We got great notices, the kind that make you feel immortal for about 12 hours. The director was a guy named Vince Morello, intense, charismatic, the kind of guy who could talk investors into believing the moon was made of grant money. He pulled me aside after our closing performance and said, "Peter, I'm putting together a movie. Low budget, indie as hell, but it's real. You're my lead. No dwarf jokes, no gimmicks. Just a guy who loses everything and claws his way back. It's you." I believed him. God, I believed him like he was handing me salvation on a silver platter. We shot for 6 weeks in Queens, in abandoned warehouses, on rooftops, in a diner that let us film after midnight if we bought enough coffee. I gave that movie everything. I didn't sleep. I didn't eat. I poured 10 years of rage and hope into every frame. The character's name was Ray, a night security guard who finds out his wife is leaving him the same week. The factory he. Guards shuts down. I knew Ray. Ray was me if the dice had rolled a millimeter the other way. We wrapped principal photography on a Thursday, and Vince threw a party in the production office. Cheap beer, cheaper pizza, everybody hugging and crying and promising to stay in touch forever. I remember Vince raising his plastic cup and shouting, "To Peter fucking Dinklage, the heart of this movie." I floated home on the subway that night, convinced I'd finally done it, convinced the world was about to open. 3 days later, the producer vanished. Took the footage, the investor money, and the negative with him. Just gone. No forwarding address, no voicemail, nothing. Vince spent a week calling everyone he knew, screaming into phones, showing up at bars, looking like a ghost. Then one morning he called me at 6 a.m., voice flat. "Pete," he said, "it's over. The money was fake, the investors were fake. The whole thing, it was a scam, I'm sorry, click." I sat on my kitchen floor with the phone in my lap until the sun came up. I didn't cry then. I couldn't. I was hollowed, gutted. All those nights I'd spent away from the temp job, all the rent I'd fallen behind on because I believed, all the times I'd told my mom, "This one's real, Ma," gone. I walked to the production office to see for myself. The door was padlocked. A notice from the landlord was taped to the glass. Eviction. Inside, through the window, I could see the pizza boxes still on the tables, the congratulatory balloons sagging like dead skin. I had $43 in my checking account and a shift at the data processing job I'd been fired from 2 weeks earlier for missing too many days. My roommate had moved out while we were shooting, left a note saying he was tired of covering my half of the rent. My girlfriend at the time, she'd warned me, "Peter, you can't keep betting everything on these miracles." She was gone too. I didn't blame her. That afternoon, I took the subway to Long Island City because I couldn't face going home to an empty apartment. I still had a key to stage 19. We'd shot the final scene there, Ray sitting alone under a flickering fluorescent light, realizing nobody was coming to save him. I let myself in through the side door, walked across the vast darkness until I found the mark where I'd sat for 12 hours while the crew lit the shot. I sat there again, only this time the camera wasn't rolling. The temperature dropped fast once the sun went down. I had on a thin jacket, jeans with holes in the knees, boots that let the cold in. I walked the stage like a man pacing a prison cell, kicking at cables, whispering every curse word I knew until my voice gave out. At some point I lay down right on Ray's mark, stared up at the grid of lights 30 feet above me, black and lifeless, and I started bargaining with God, with the universe, with whatever cruel bastard writes these stories. Take the legs, take the height, take every shitty thing you've already taken, but please, please don't take this from me. Don't make me nothing. I must have fallen asleep because the next thing I remember is a flashlight beam cutting across my face. I shot upright, heart hammering. The night watchman was an older black man named Clarence. I joked with him every day on set, asked him about his grandkids, brought him coffee once when it was raining. He looked down at me, face unreadable in the dark. "Peter," he said quietly, "that you?" I couldn't speak. Shame burned so hot I thought I'd catch fire. I waited for him to call security, to tell me to get the hell out, to treat me like the trespasser I was. Instead, he sighed, clicked off the flashlight, and sat on an apple box about 10 feet away. "Cold tonight," he said. I nodded. We sat in silence for what felt like an hour. Then he reached into his lunch bag, pulled out half a turkey sandwich wrapped in foil, and slid it across the floor to me. "My wife makes too much," he lied. I took it with shaking hands. I hadn't eaten in 2 days. He didn't ask why I was there. He didn't offer advice. He just sat with me until the sandwich was gone and the shaking stopped. Then he stood up, brushed off his pants, and said, "Lock up when you leave, son. I'll be back at 6. He walked away. The side door closed with a soft click that sounded like mercy. I didn't leave. I couldn't. I lay back down on the concrete, pulled that tarp over me, and let the tears come. Not pretty tears, ugly, snot-nosed animal tears. I thought about my father, how he'd worked 60 hours a week as a salesman and still came home smiling. I thought about every person who'd ever said, "You're talented, but..." I thought about the kid I used to be, the one who stood on a chair in the living room reciting Shakespeare to an audience of couch pillows. And for the first time in years, I talked to that kid out loud. "You still in there?" I whispered to the darkness. "Because I'm tired. I'm so fucking tired. And I don't know if you're worth this anymore." Silence answered me, the loudest silence I've ever heard. Then something moved in the corner of the stage, a rustle. I sat up, terrified it was security after all, but it wasn't. It was a rat dragging a piece of paper. I watched it struggle, the paper too big, a rat too small, but it wouldn't let go. It pulled and pulled until it disappeared into the shadows with its prize, and I started laughing. Hysterical, broken laughing that echoed off the walls like a madman, because I got it. I finally got it. The rat didn't care if anyone was watching. It didn't care if the paper was too heavy or the floor too cold. It wanted the damn paper, so it took it. I stood up, legs numb, wiped my face on the fake blood tarp, and walked to the mark one last time. I looked straight up at the dark lights and I said it out loud, no whispering this time. "Okay, I'm still in here, and I'm not done." I left before Clarence came back, walked out into the freezing pre-dawn air and took the train all the way to the end of the line and back again just to stay warm. When the city woke up, I went to the library, used their phone to call every contact I had, and started over. Day one, again. That night on the soundstage became my origin story, the one I never told Letterman, never told the HBO documentary crew, never told anyone until right now. Because it's ugly, because it's humiliating, because for years I was ashamed that I'd been that low. But here's what I know now. That floor saved my life. That cold, that hunger, that rat, that sandwich from a man who didn't have to care, those things stripped away every illusion I had left. There was no more waiting for permission, no more praying for rescue. There was only the next step, and the next, and the next. Every time I've been terrified since, every time a director has asked me to prove myself again, every time the world has tried to remind me I'm 4'5" in a 6-foot game, I go back to stage 19. I feel the concrete under my spine. I taste the dust. I hear Clarence's footsteps walking away, trusting me to lock up, and I remember I've already survived the worst night. Everything else is just weather, So if you're out there right now sleeping on someone's couch or in your car or on a floor that doesn't belong to you, listen to me. That floor is not the end, it's the beginning. It's the place where the bullshit burns off and you find out what you're actually made of. Don't pretty it up, don't rush to forget it, carry it. Let it make you ruthless about your dream, gentle with other people's pain, and absolutely allergic to self-pity. I still have the key to stage 19 on my keychain. It doesn't open anything anymore. They renumbered the stages years ago, but I keep it anyway. A reminder that the lowest night of my life was also the night I chose to stay, the night a rat taught me persistence, the night a stranger handed me half a sandwich and, without knowing it, handed me my future. You don't need to be saved. You need to be witnessed. And sometimes the only witness you've got is you, shivering in the dark, refusing to leave the stage. Stay on the stage, the lights will come back on. I promise I'm living proof, and every award, every role, every standing ovation I've ever gotten started right there on that cold, hard, unforgiving floor when I decided the story wasn't over. It's not over for you either. Just keep dragging the paper.